You heard me right. What if I told you that everything you think you know about Chrissy and Jim Jones is a lie? What if I told you that, in a single move, Camron, yes, the same Camron that we are all familiar with, destroyed all they had built? He broke up their perfect little universe when he entered the courtroom. You won't believe the truths he just disclosed, I promise. Here's the twist though. The man we all think of as Jim Jones, Chrissy, is impenetrable. After this, you won't even recognize her. She thinks she could get away with it. But now that he had lost everything in front of everyone, he was left defenseless as the walls around him crumbled. Do you really think that Camron just exposed a scandal that would make you think Chrissy was the mastermind? And that Jim Jones didn't realize the reality was far worse than you could imagine? This is not your typical celebrity controversy. It's the year's biggest controversy. What happens if someone you trust betrays you in the most obvious way imaginable? Everything you've put so much effort into falls apart. Are you ready to be blown away? This is just the beginning, so stay put. Everyone seemed to be waiting for the next piece of the puzzle to fit together as the days passed and the situation grew more complex. Would Melly escape punishment, or would there be too much evidence against him? Every fresh rumor and leak only fueled their intense interest in the trial. Although the amount of video footage that had come to light was staggering, it lacked the clarity that everyone had hoped for. It was unclear and blurry, depicting two people in a car who might have been Melly and Bortland, his alleged collaborator. However, a definitive identification was not possible due to the lack of particular information. Would Melly's name be cleared by this smoking gun? Or was it just another piece of evidence that would make things more difficult? By claiming that the footage was too blurry to be useful in court, the defense team exploited this ambiguity. Rather than giving an accurate account of what transpired, the prosecution was unwilling to back down and used the footage to show yet another attempt to deceive the jury and raise doubts as a tactic meant to sway public opinion that Melly was present at the scene at a crucial point, even if it wasn't immediately apparent. What was even more evidence that some of his former co-workers had revealed, claiming that Melly had previously made covert threats, was troubling for Melly's defense. They stated that Melly had been angry and unhappy at being duped, and some even alleged that he had vowed to take action. Did it hint at something much worse? Or was it just the attitude of an innocent man? That Bortland, Nelly's old friend, would take matters into his own hands if they didn't go his way, as if things couldn't get much worse. Following weeks of conjecture around a possible plea accord, the co-defendant at last acted. Portland's defense team unexpectedly declared that he was in negotiations. The last line of defense for Melly's tale had been Portland. Consequently, the prosecution's proposal of Melly's case was severely damaged by a lower sentence in exchange for evidence against him. The courtroom was on fire because the prosecution had an insider who had first-hand knowledge of the events leading up to Bortland's possible flipping. The tension was apparent as Bortland's action caused a wave of astonished rapper fans, and the Free Melly campaign seemed to be diminishing as more and more people conjectured that Melly's defense would finish because his best buddy was going to turn against him in exchange for a lighter sentence. Despite the fact that Moore, a former member of Melly's inner circle, came forward as a whistleblower, claiming to have direct knowledge of Melly's involvement in the aftermath and to have witnessed Melly destroy evidence. As people started to question his innocence, the whistleblower was granted anonymity for their protection. Additionally, they said that Melly had acknowledged this to them in private conversations. The horrifying evidence of the whistleblowers seemed to confirm the worst suspicions of those who believed Melly was at fault. Naturally, the defense attempted to discredit the whistleblower by claiming that they were just a bitter ex-partner looking for attention and money. But with every new piece of evidence against Melly and the growing list of witnesses, it became more and more clear that the walls were closing in on him. The final straw was a video of a Melly seemed to make reference to a plea deal during a conversation with his lawyer that was made public. If Melly was actually thinking about a plea agreement, the tape was catastrophic. It would show that he was open to entering a guilty plea to less counts, to avoid being sentenced to life in prison. The tape was swiftly used by the prosecution as proof that Melly was aware of his guilt and was trying to permanently alter the jury's decision by confessing to it. Avoid the consequences of his acts by making the agreement. Naturally, the defense refuted the veracity of the audio, but by then the damage had already been done, and the public was beginning to question every facet of Nelly's case. Supporters were split. A few retained endorsing him, claiming that the system was biased against him and that he was the victim of a massive conspiracy. But others started to feel the weight of the evidence against him. Could it be that everyone's only concern as the trial drew to a close was whether Mellie would either be set free or spend the rest of her life behind bars? The court drama had now gained international attention. Social media went berserk with each new, depressing development in the case, and the media was unable to stop chronicling this spectacle. Celebrities and influencers expressed their opinions. The world seemed to be waiting for the final verdict on Mellie's guilt or innocence. However, Mellie's declaration to the court was the most shocking development of all, even as the case reached a breaking point. In the final moments of the trial, Mellie took the stand to defend himself. Details about his upbringing were presented in his emotional statement, in which he maintained his innocence and denied any involvement. It appeared to have an impact on certain people in the courtroom because to his struggles and his steadfast attempts to behave morally. Was that enough, though? The world will soon find out if Mellie's passionate plea to the court was enough to convince a jury that he was innocent. The jury deliberated as the trial drew to a close, and everyone watched to see if Mellie would be found guilty or if he would ever be set free again in spite of the overwhelming evidence against him. Whatever the outcome, one thing was guaranteed. In this instance, changed everything. The tale of W. Mellie was more than a trial. It was about a system where a superstar and the worlds of wealth and fame intersect in unforeseen ways. The last act was scheduled, but it remained to be seen if the truth would eventually come to light. When the truths are exposed, what happens? When the truth comes to light, start revealing. All of a sudden, you find yourself at the epicenter of an uncontrollable scandal. Additionally, we will learn about it. It goes beyond Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's personal betrayal. Because of the tension between Jim, this is a full-blown public meltdown. Oh no. Let's investigate the mess that's causing a stir on social media and beyond. Camron was talking about more than just controlling relationships and financial manipulation while he was on the stand. He exposed an empire built on falsehoods, dishonesty, and manipulation. The public's ignorance of everything that Camron did not reveal. Camron was purportedly in possession of court documents. Jim and Chrissy's ship is slowly being destroyed by the truths he has been allowing to surface one by one. The reality that documents that investigative reporters currently possess are shocking for one reason. Jim wasn't the only one who made choices about his career and finances. Instead, Chrissy was the woman who had made a name for herself and wasn't just a helpful girlfriend. While Jim's ride or die was secretly controlling every aspect of their relationship behind the scenes, she was the one making the important choices, managing the finances, and shaping their public narrative. And that's only the start. As you can see, Jim might have been the one that entertained the crowd and rapped during his performances. However, they were discussing more than a few endorsement deals when it came to the money, the true wealth. The person with her hands all over everything was Chrissy. It was said that she was the mastermind behind everything related to their business transactions, employing offshore account, shell companies, and a network of undiscovered assets. Jim, meantime, was focused on his work and thought Chrissy had his back. But Camron wasn't done yet. No unnamed persons acquainted with the situation claimed that Chrissy wasn't just in control of Jim's money when he started talking about the bad parts of his relationship. Additionally, she was assisting with the management of his public persona. Chrissy plotted every move he made and every decision he made in order to maintain the perception of the perfect couple. They had evolved throughout time. Let's now talk about the money laundering component of this instance is important. I promise you that Camron found out that Jim and Christy were involved in some questionable financial transactions. It is dubious that money meant for their business was allegedly diverted into shell companies using hidden accounts and even used for non-work-related personal purposes. Worse though, it wasn't even a mistake. Instead, it was a clever plan to hide their wealth from the public. And Camron was not going to allow them get away with it. He disclosed everything that transpired in that courtroom, including Chrissy's deception of Jim and their clandestine money schemes. But according to those same anonymous sources, the couple's dubious behavior didn't stop there. Secrets weren't just from a few months or years ago. They went all the way back to the start. From the start of their relationship, Chrissy had been using Jim as a pawn in her intricate plan to obtain wealth and power. Jim Jones is not your average celebrity. He is a well-known figure in the hip-hop industry, a rapper, and a businessman. This was a premeditated scheme to control Jim's life and destiny, not a love tale gone wrong. It's nearly Jim's professional development, hard work, and reputation in the community are all tragically lyrical. However, Chrissy was secretly making choices behind closed doors that were influencing not just their financial future, but also his every move. But hold on, we're not finished yet. There is more to this issue than just financial exploitation or marital discord. The public is also involved. On social media, the public went bonkers once Camron disclosed the truth about the real situation. And that's the interesting part. Fans began to turn against Jim and Chrissy on a never-before-seen scale. Before the internet's shock waves became apparent, everyone from hip-hop aficionados to bystanders started looking into their history and revealing all of their questionable activities. Was what we witnessed on? People started asking, and Camron claims that the answer was yes. The part that truly hit home came next. Jim Jones was no longer in charge. After the TV program concluded, after trial revelations were made public, his empire started to crumble, and even his closest allies started to turn against him, wondering if they had been duped by Chrissy. The betrayal was real, and the damage was undeniable. However, everyone is still concerned about Jim's future. In actuality, these insights could be detrimental. Indeed, Jim is a survivor and a warrior. However, this goes beyond a feud with Camron or some made-up television drama. Even worse, it's about the person he trusted the most destroying his entire public identity. If you think Jim Jones is struggling at the moment, he has lost control of the story because everyone is now questioning everything he has ever said and done. Chrissy isn't exactly winning popularity contests after all of that was made public, and fans and even some of her friends are starting to see her for who she truly is. Hold off till you see how she's managing things. It truly is. The backlash will only get worse. However, we're only getting started. The public backlash has already begun, and I guarantee you that this will not be a short-lived scandal. More secrets will come to light the more people talk about it. This roller coaster is just getting started, so hold on tight. Now that we've explored the issue, keep an eye out. You never know what's going to happen. Since the aftermath is when things become even more heated, let's discuss it. The financial secrets, the falsehoods, and the drama in court. First of all, following the controversy and the chaos in public, Jim Jones's reputation is completely destroyed. He went from being a respected member of the hip-hop culture to being made fun of. Rumors are spreading quickly, and the real consequences are just now starting to show. You comprehend how the internet functions. One mistake, one startling revelation, and you're reduced to a hashtag. Jim Jones was a fraudster. Even worse, when your entire career has been built on loyalty, respect, and street cred. It's like having the same people stab you in the back when your closest friends turn against you. You can't simply get over someone who was supposed to be there for you. The saddest thing, though, is that his career isn't merely private, it's also professional. His songs aren't even showing up on the charts. His travels have been scaled back, and his brand is struggling. Sales of tickets and backs have drastically decreased. Nowadays, no one wants to be connected to a man who is thought to be weak, cunning, and possibly involved in questionable actions. No one in the hip-hop industry wants to do that. Let's be honest. Desires to be the, but you also lose all the authority you previously thought you had about being a rapper, with a few successes. But now it's about surviving the damage to your reputation. Trust me, this will have a negative impact that Jim won't be able to handle. She's not much better. In fact, if you thought her role in this drama would go unnoticed, think again. She's been pulled through the muck with Jim. Chrissy was purportedly in charge of the show behind the scenes. But now that she's being exposed as the real mastermind behind the deceit and deception, those ideal couple sentiments were just that ideal. Even worse, she might have begun it, despite the fact that she may have misled the public for years. Because of the public's perception of her as nothing more than a manipulative figure and their belief that she is using Jim as a puppet in a larger game of deceit that is collapsing faster than a house of cards. She is now bearing the repercussions. Don't trust me though. Based on sources, let's talk about the implications. Here, I'm talking about some real insider knowledge. And there is no blowback against Chrissy, apart from the haters on the internet who are having a great time with Chrissy's exposure. Fans of the joke are seeking explanations and asking that she be held accountable for the manner she handled Jim's cash and career. The world has had enough of her, as seen by every tweet, meme, and comment. She is no longer seen as the loyal girlfriend, helping her partner. Rather, she is presented as a crafty individual who took advantage of their connection for personal gain. Gain is a recurring story. Let's talk about the legal ramifications, because, things are becoming serious. In addition to disclosing private information, the courtroom spectacle raised some grave legal concerns. We are discussing potential financial fraud, money laundering, and manipulation of corporate transactions. Additionally, you can bet your bottom money that the police will begin investigating, that things will become ugly. As part of ongoing investigations into the couple's financial dealings, authorities are reportedly looking into possible money laundering operations. According to information from hidden assets, offshore accounts, and anonymous sources. Furthermore, these accusations are not limited to the media. There are, in fact, investigations underway. If the allegations are true, we might be charged with major crimes, including tax evasion and perhaps criminal conspiracy. Now, things become much more intricate. Chrissy is still in trouble even if Jen Jones is no longer in charge. Those with knowledge of the situation claim that she has already made plans to end her connection with Jim. You recognize that when the chips are down, the person who has been in charge usually jumps ship first. Chrissy has been accused of manipulating Jim by utilizing his line of work as a launching pad for her own empire. However, what occurs if her business fail? You can be certain that she does. And that's the next phase of the consequences. The split between Jim and Chrissy is more than just a personal one. There will be long-term repercussions from this public and professional rupture. According to insiders who already assert that behind-the-scenes operations are getting unpleasant. What does this signify for the future of Jim and Chrissy? We are aware that their financial affairs, business ventures, and relationship are all failing, and the tension is increasing daily day. The road ahead will undoubtedly be long and challenging. They have caused a catastrophe that no one will soon forget. At every point, the public keeps a tight eye on them. They are therefore well prepared for what is ahead. Because the truth always manages to come to light, and in this case it has already been made public. Shall we come to a conclusion? Jim and Chrissy feel they could deceive everyone, but they ultimately succeeded only in. We're all observing the downfall of everything. Furthermore, a couple's failing relationship isn't the only issue of the day. It concerns a business built on dishonesty and trickery. Will Jim be able to help Chrissy move past this?